Hi, this is Carly Simon playing favorites on Seriously Sinatra. My first song is Nancy with a Laughing Face, which is I find so touching. I think it's, any song that a father is singing about his baby, especially a baby girl. Well, I don't know. I think a baby boy would be great too. Is just very, very touching to me, and I've always loved this song, and I always think about how Nancy's mother must feel when she hears that song. And so here it is. It's written about Nancy when she was a baby, and the melody is Jimmy Van Heusen, and the lyric is Phil Silvers. What a surprise! But anyway, I guess he got into the head and the eyes of Frank Sinatra when he wrote this one. So here it is, Nancy with a Laughing Face. Hi, this is Carly Simon, and I'm playing favorites on Seriously Sinatra. I'd like to play the second song from the mid-1950s, Love is the Tender Trap, which is from the movie. I went to the movie. It was the first date I ever had. I went to that movie, and I came home, and I had no idea what to do, whether to let him kiss me or whether to not let him kiss me. I had no idea. We sat in my grandmother's house. She was in the other room probably listening. I was, I think, 13 or 14 years old at the time. And I was, a little girl, and he was a senior, and I think he'd been told that I could probably be easily taken advantage of. Well, he was probably just as scared as I. So he started cracking his knuckles, and I didn't know what to do. I was short. I had no idea what to say. So I started cracking my knuckles too. And I said, well, I guess I'll be cracking my knuckles for a long time. And then he left. He didn't kiss me. But that was that was a little anecdote about going to see The Tender Trap. I absolutely love the song. Certainly the guy in the movie, played by Frank, plays around a whole lot, and then all of a sudden when he's finally bitten by love, he knows that that's the tender trap. And what a wonderful, wonderful expression. The song is written by Jimmy Van Heusen and Sammy Cahn. And here it is, Love is the Tender Trap.
You see
And this is Carly Simon again, playing favorites on Seriously Sinatra. On the 9th of July in 1993, I got really lucky because I got to do a duet with Frank Sinatra on his first duets album. And Phil Ramone was the producer, and he called me up and asked me what I wanted to do. And the first thought was that I wanted to do one for my baby and one more for the road. But since I was a spokesperson for Mothers Against Drunk Drivers, I thought it was inappropriate. So the next choice I had thought of was to do a duet with him where Frank and I sang different songs, where I sang The Wee Small Hours of the Morning, which was a song that I was familiar with from already having recorded it on the My Romance album that I did in 1991, and that Frank would sing, Guess I'll Hang My Tears Out to Dry. So we fitted together. I sort of worked it out so that I sang around Frank. Frank didn't actually come to Boston to sing with me. We sang over headphones. Basically Frank had already recorded his track in his home in Palm Springs, and I recorded in a studio in Boston. And there was just a slight delay. And so in order to get the timing right, I had to anticipate the beat, which was very hard. So when you hear this, imagine me anticipating the beat. I think that was one of my greatest credits. The song, just for those of you who don't know, Guess I'll Hang My Tears Out to Dry is by Sammy Kahn and Julie Stein, and We Small Hours is by Bob Hilliard with Dave Mann. And I think they're both two of the most beautiful songs I've ever heard. And so I was very happy, and I mean, it's one of my greatest triumphs to have done this duet with Frank Sinatra. And here it is. Guess I'll Hang My Tears Out to Dry. This is Carly Simon playing favorites on Seriously Sinatra. Frank Sinatra's version of It Was a Very Good Year, which has always been one of those incredible songs that makes me shiver every time I hear it. I wanted to for I guess it was Film Noir. I wanted to record it, but I wanted to change some of the words. So I never did actually do the recording, but I intend to. Meanwhile, in the forefront, here is Frank Sinatra singing It Was a Very Good Year. Next song coming up on your Frank Sinatra show with Carly Simon as your hostess is a song that I also recorded. I have listened to so much Sinatra that there's hardly a song that he has sung that I've not considered recording. But here is Bewitched, Bothered, and Bewildered by Rodgers and Hart, sung by Frank Sinatra.
She's a fool and don't I know it.
Hi, this is Carly Simon playing favorites on Seriously Sinatra. I find that this song, Bewitched, Bothered, and Bewildered, is a very sexy song, and when I sing and worship the trousers that cling to him, I know there's a line that I think Ella sang, the ants that invaded my pants, and there were various explicit sexual lines in that song. I used the worship the trousers that cling to him because I just love trousers, and I just thought that would be, and I do. I don't necessarily have a thing about ants, so worship the trousers I think is very appropriately sensual. This is Carly Simon playing favorites on Seriously Sinatra. I've always sung songs that I get an emotional rush from. I just made an album called Never Been Gone, and they're a collection of my own standards in a way. At least 6 out of the 12 songs are songs that were very well known, and some of the others are just songs that I love from my catalog, and there are 2 new songs on the record. So it was very interesting to reconstruct them and to rethink them and to put them in Ben's hands. Ben is my son, Ben Taylor, and see what he had to say about them, see what he came up with, and it was a fascinating experience, and one that I really learned from, because very often the lyrics that I wrote when I was 25, 26, 27 mean very different things to me now, such as these are the good old days. These are the good old days. Now I see a very different hourglass. I see that the hourglass is turned in the other direction, and every spring is even more precious to me now than it was before, because it feels as if I might not have 100 more. And of course, when you're young, you think you're going to have 100 more of everything. But speaking of when I was young, I was in a high school production of Girl Crazy, and that's a Gershwin musical, and in it is a song called But Not For Me, and I sang that song in that high school production. with great trepidation, not because of anything other than that my nervous system is overly active. But anyway, I would love to hear Frank Sinatra's version of But Not For Me. So here it is. A song that I have always adored, and I've loved it through various different versions of it, is Try a Little Tenderness. I think it's one of the songs that really breaks through all of the veils and pierces right through into the vulnerability of, in this case, a person of the opposite sex who is a woman that is being talked about by a man, and various suggestions that are being made when she gets weary. Women do get weary wearing the same, I think Frank says shabby and Otis Redding says shaggy, dress. When she gets weary, try a little tenderness. And when I heard Frank sing it, I was just like a preteen, I think I first heard it probably at 54 or 55 because I started to love Frank about then. And I heard it and I was so moved by the gentleness of it. And then when I heard the Otis Redding version of it many years later, I probably heard it first in the early 70s, I'm not sure when he recorded it, I was just staggered by the sexiness of it and it keeps on growing and growing and growing and it gets mighty and it gets like so triumphant and exuberant, and it just breaks through all the walls, and you have to dance no matter who you are, even if you've never danced in your life. You have to dance to Otis Redding's version. But first, let's hear Frank's version on The Voice, recorded in December 45. And this is Carly Simon again, playing favorites on Seriously Sinatra. That was Otis Redding's version of Try a Little Tenderness, and played back-to-back with Frank's version of it. I think it's very, very interesting juxtaposition. And now we have a song by Arthur Schwartz and Howard Dietz that is a really beautiful song. It's called You and the Night and the Music. And when it was first, I think, played out of town, I think it was in a musical, and it played out of town, and the lyric is, you and the night and the music fill me with flaming desire, or at least it was then. And Arthur Schwartz and Howard Dietz got a phone call, a very angry phone call from somebody who was very shocked, and they wanted to even stop the show on the basis of it. And they called it inappropriate and violent and scandalous, and just you and the night and the music fill me with flaming desire. Can you imagine that was considered so outrageous then? And think of what is said now and what is done now. Wow, we've come a long way. This is Carly Simon. I want to play one more, and it's a song that just puts me in a zone every time I hear it. It's Frank singing Deep in a Dream, written by Jimmy Van Heusen, and Eddie DeLange wrote the lyric to it. And I wonder where Eddie is now. Hi, Eddie. Anyway, it's a Nelson Riddle arrangement, and just listen to it and think about Frank sitting in a chair, in a big kind of overstuffed chair, and he's thinking about the woman that he loves, and he kind of falls into a trance, which is a dream, and the smoke of a cigarette rises into the air, and you just get into a zone, and very meditative, sad but meditative. So here is Frank singing Deep in a Dream. I have so enjoyed being here. This is Carly Simon, having listened to a lot of Frank Sinatra and a little bit of me, and so thank you for having me. I am here on Sirius XM. Thank you. This is Carly.